This is Ian Berry, and welcome to another Wise Leaders Sparkenation conversation. Just a reminder that a Sparkenation is a spark that ignites passion, that leads to action, that changes what's normal. I'm thrilled today because my special guest is my daughter, Jessica. And so how exciting that I get to have a conversation with flesh and blood, literally. But Jessica's into it. She's got an exciting field happening. She calls it intuition. And normally I would ask the guest sage to give us a little explanation. Just going to let Kathy in. Normally I would ask the guest to give us a little explanation of what their topic is, but that would be a mistake, I think, in the case of Jessica's intuition, because it's best to experience it rather than be told about it. So I'm going to hand straight over to Jessica. Welcome, Kathy. We'll just let Kathy get connected. All right, Kathy, I hope you can hear us. We're going to get underway. I was just saying that the best way to learn about intuition is to experience it. And so, Jessica, I'm going to hand over to you to lead us.
Okay, so what I'd like to do together is to just guide you in a meditation. So I just want to say thank you all for being here with us. I just feel really grateful that you took an interest in joining us today. And thank you to Dad for building a supportive community and for being dedicated to the truth in life and sharing that with me as a child so that I could grow up with that anchor to be an authentic person. Shall we welcome this other new friend?
Yeah, we've got David just joining us.
David Dangerfield here. I'll have my video off just for a sec, as I sort of get myself into a spot where I can actually tune in. So I'll be listening in.
Okay. Well, Jessica's just about to lead us in a little exercise to get us started, David. So
have you
welcome.
Got anyone else coming in, Dad?
There's one more.
Yeah.
But
I guess I can just slip in quietly because we will be in a meditative space. So I'm sure we'll just figure that out.
Ease them in when Jamie arrives.
Mm-hmm. So hello to each of you. And I'd like to invite you to join me in just a little exercise to come into meeting presence. So I'm going to guide you firstly in a little imaginative scene, and then we're going to go into a direct experience of meeting what is innate to all of our nature, which is to be present. So I invite you to sit comfortably wherever you are, just letting your body settle, letting your feet contact the floor, and just let yourself become really comfortable and settled and solid so that nothing's bothering you about your physical environment. Letting yourself relax. And you just want to stay upright when you're meditating because it can be really easy to fall asleep, especially when you've had when you've got a busy life and it's difficult to tune into the spaciousness of our being. It can be really common to fall asleep. So sitting upright can be really helpful, but you don't need to have a special posture or any kind of juju for meditation to work. It's just a matter of being upright and being comfortable in whatever suits you. So I'd like to invite you to close your eyes and just letting yourself take a couple of really natural breaths. Letting them slow down. You can let that out audibly if it suits you, or silently. Breathing in and out. So I'd like to picture that we're all together in an entrance room. And the entrance room is the entrance to the room of presence. So you can imagine that there's a door, and behind the door is this ever-present field. And it's always inviting us to be there with it. So it's issued an invitation, and we're delighted to come and accept that invitation. But there's just one requirement before you enter into the room of presence. And that's just that you need a certain lightness of being. So provided in this entrance hall is a little safety box. And we're just going to put a few things inside that box that will weigh us down if we take them in to the room of presence with us. So pop your keys and phone in there. And if you're wearing a watch, take off your watch, put it in there. And just for the moment, you can put your schedule in there. Don't worry, you can have it back after. So place that in the box. And then you'll notice that you're wearing a coat, and this coat is your roles. So this is things like mother, father, brother, boss, worker, any roles that you've identified with in this life experience. Imagine you're taking all that off like a coat, and you're hanging it on the hook provided for you. And you can take this coat back afterwards. It's there safe for you. But for now, just let go of those roles. And now you notice that you're chewing on something. You've got this chewing gum in your mouth. And what that is your habitual thoughts. You know those thoughts that just go round and round, and you're always chewing on them. So take that gum out of your mouth and put it in a little box there that's provided. You can have those habitual thoughts back later if you want them. And the next type of thoughts that we want to pop in a box here is just thoughts of success or failure, thoughts of performance, thoughts of getting it right or wrong, thoughts of winning or losing, strategy. We don't need those either to enter the room of presence. So just putting aside all thoughts of success, failure, and putting those in the box provided. And you can take them back later. They're all in this safe box for you. So now we've put all of our things in our boxes and the door opens. This means we're sufficiently light of being. So we enter the room of presence together. And the first thing you notice in the room of presence is that you're breathing. So take this moment just to experience breathing as though it's the first time you breathed. Bring all your focus and attention just into this very natural feeling of breathing. This experience of breathing. There's this rhythm, the inward and the outward breath. And just notice how your stomach and your chest engage in the breathing process. Just to spend a moment here being really intimate with your own breath, following your breath out, following your breath in, noticing the tiny pause at either end of the breath. Just experiencing that pause before letting go into the outward breath. And just breathe naturally, letting your body experience the breath directly. Noticing how your body breathes. You don't have to schedule your breathing. Your body's just there, breathing, naturally living. You don't have to drive your breathing. Your body simply breathes. As you breathe, find and locate your heartbeat. It's right there. Like you're breathing, your heartbeat is ever present. It follows a rhythm, just like your breath. It's always with you. It's vibrantly alive, this heartbeat. This present process of your body, directly accessible. Tune in and experience and notice your heartbeat. Feel it play into rhythm with your breathing. Feel how the heartbeat moves throughout your body. And move your hands into a receptive position. This can be open in your lap or open on your knees. And feel how your blood pumps into your hands. Take all your attention and zoom it in just to this subtle sensation of the blood reaching your hands from your heart. Feel this alive tingling in your fingers. This vibrant living energy of your body. This ever-present supportive process that's part of you. Bring your attention directly into this experience of this blood, this feeling of your hands. Notice how much presence is in your hands. Feel this vibrant energy in the hands. Just notice it, experience it. Now I'd like to invite you to include your whole body experience. You're using this quality of noticing, this quality of being curious, using that to scan the experience of your body, how you sense your body. You might notice images or words coming into your mind, and you can simply let them slip by. That's just your mind wanting to be helpful. But right now, come into direct experience of this body sensation. Noting that you're supported, fully supported by your chair. Your chair is fully supported by your house. Your house is fully supported by the earth, the rock, and the earth is supported in space. And your body is fully held in a supportive space. Using this curious attention to sense your body experience. If you begin to ever feel like your mind is slipping back into thought, know that you can guide your attention we're all able to guide our attention where we want it to be. You can just gently nudge your attention back to your direct experience. You can use your breathing as a doorway to direct experience because you're always breathing. So nudging your attention back to your breath if you find that your attention has started to wander back to thinking. Dropping directly into your breathing. Now I want to invite you to expand beyond your sense of your body. Feel how your attention can easily expand beyond the sense of your body. Your attention is able to expand to take in the sense of the room. And just allow any sound in this experience of the room to just come into your attention. And just receive the sound. Where I am, there's a plane overhead, there's birds, there's the hum of the fridge. I can hear my own voice. I'm just receiving these sounds. For the moment, it's not necessary for them to mean anything. I'm just allowing these sounds to be experienced in my attention. And feeling this energy expanding beyond the room. And just sitting in that. No need for any meaning, just a direct experience of your senses expanding. There's still awareness of your body. You're still supported in your chair. You're still supported by your breath and your heartbeat. But your attention is free to shift and free to notice and free to zoom in and out of experience. So just take this moment to play with zooming your attention. Choose an area of your body and just zoom your attention right into that area of the body. And then play with zooming out into the way that you sense the room. And then play with choosing another area of the body and see how you can shift your attention there. And allowing your attention to come out and back into your breath. Connecting with your breathing. Noticing how you can just observe your breathing with your attention and zoom in on it. Now I'll invite you to open your eyes. And when you do, just take in the shapes and the colors. And just let your eyes for a moment experience without putting any meaning on the objects and the spaces between the objects. Just allow your eyes to take in light and shadow, and color and lack of color, and shapes and the space around shapes. Staying in touch with your breathing as you do so. Just scanning the room and letting yourself see the objects in this familiar environment as though you've never seen these objects. Bring this attention that you know you're able to zoom in and out to these objects in your space. And just take them in a fresh way. Meet these objects as though for the first time. Now bringing your attention back to the conversation.
And welcome, Jamie. Your timing was pretty much perfect, mate. You did miss the meditation, but you'll be able to capture it on the recording. Yes, and also welcome, Kathy. We didn't have your sound at the start.
No reminder in the calendar, so I do apologise.
So if anyone would like to share with me anything, any insights or revelations that come to mind from that experience, I'd love to hear about your experience of that type of meditation. If there's nothing that comes to mind, then there's no need to say anything, but if something jumps, then let's have a chat about it. I see we're all just present.
I guess for myself, I always like in that type of meditation, the ability to be able to isolate very singular processes that is going on in your body, such as the heartbeat, or where you can feel the heartbeat.
Yeah, that's one that evades a lot of people. Yeah,
or specific parts of your body, and actually drawing the attention to specific parts of your body and therefore where they are in space and how you're feeling them in space. Because so often we live life without thinking about any of that. So for myself, I always really enjoy those types of meditations whereby you're able to isolate singular things or processes that are actually going on in your body at that time.
Yeah, it's an exercise in getting us out of our head and into our direct experience. So because most of us live solely in thought, and when you live in thought, you're just noticing the past. And so it means that you're not available to what you're directly experiencing. So doing these little exercises just trains your attention to be able to shift into what you're really experiencing, rather than what your mind is thinking about your experience.
Yeah, it was wonderful just how quickly I was able to just lose my thoughts.
Awesome.
Well, I think it's a great way to learn to let go. I've done a number of these, not just in the sort of Christian setting, but it's sort of a universal thing. And you let go and it prepares you for whatever is coming next, and you just take it on. It's a survival thing, maybe. I mean, if you see it that way, but certainly very beneficial.
Yeah, for me, my passion for meditation just becomes from a desire to be here, rather than in my made-up stories in my brain. Because quite often for me, especially when I was younger, I would make up quite sad stories in my brain. And I think, though, that this sort of habit of making up, I call them sad stories of loss and despair. This habit of making up those kind of stories made me have a difficult time, until I realized that I was just kind of addicted to a certain type of emotion. And that I was free to take my attention away from that emotion.
Back in the
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, I didn't realize we were in there. I'll leave you with it.
Yeah, so in a way, I'm thankful that I had those kind of habits to show me other ways of using my attention.
It's an
Yeah.
interesting reflection in itself to think about the kind of stories we've made up.
Yeah.
Yours, sad stories, the stories that I made up when I was a child, and I continue to have these stories. I made up stories of not being good enough.
We all learn that one.
Yeah, and that's the one that plays often. But when I meditate, and it happened again to me today, I often go to London, which I did in that moment. And I experienced myself walking down a street in Paddington that I probably walked down 50 times to a hotel that I used to stay at on a regular basis. And I noticed a lot of the things in the street that I'd never actually seen before. And then all of a sudden I thought, oh, I had a
How
bit
interesting.
I had a bit of a start. I had a bit of a start. But it's how I get away from the stories of not being good enough. I immediately, through meditation, find that I am good enough, and then I can actually go anywhere I want.
Yeah. So by building your ability to have attention for your attention, you can see through your stories. So you can see how really it's just an emotion that you're repeating to yourself. You know, and we all actually get addicted to emotions. We can get addicted to stress emotions or sad emotions. And if you really sort of pay attention to your thoughts and see them as a story running, you can see how those repeating stories give a corresponding feeling in your body, and that your body kind of expects it. It's kind of waiting for its horrible dinner. You know, like a lot of us have fearful thoughts that run around and around and around. Or we have the thoughts Dad was talking about of worrying about being good enough.
But I hear that very often, the sense of worthlessness that's inculcated, and it's almost expected that you have to feel worthless.
Yeah.
You say, why is that?
Exactly.
You know, I used to go, you know, like you're alive, you woke up, you're not dead, you know, it's a good thing. And I've always wondered, is it because our society has become so traumatized that worthlessness makes you part of the pack? And at the moment you say, well, look, I have a sense of self-worth. You know, I'm not up myself, I'm not a narcissist, but I have worth in myself. Then you become an outsider.
I think, yeah, a good way of testing it is to feel in your response. So with that, did that make you feel better when you felt like it was something society had done to you?
Not that society did it to me personally. I think it's a whole structure that creates that. And the realization of it made me realize that it's something I allow in my head. I let it in there, it's my problem, I have to deal with it.
Yeah.
And I take responsibility for it. I deal with it and move on.
So you can use this, as you train your attention, you can use your trained attention to just taste. Like when you have a new thought come in, you can taste whether or not that thought helps you to feel joy, to feel empowered, to feel expanded, to feel kindness, to feel love. And then you know that the quality of the thought you're thinking, whether it's going to be helpful to you. So sometimes we think, oh, you know, when I would feel the same as you, I would feel a deep sense of worthlessness because I'm an artist and a creative person and a mystic. I always felt on the outside of society. I didn't feel any natural interest in acquiring possessions and building a fortune. So I always felt like a fringe dweller. And so that felt like my natural way of being was worthless. No one would find my contribution of value. But as soon as I tuned into this sense of worthlessness and just tested it with my attention, I could see that it wasn't true. Because we all innately know what is true. We have the knowledge of truth inside us. So we can use this truth compass to test our thoughts and see whether they're helpful to us as they arise in your head. And so this training of the attention is what's helpful to give you a bit of space from your thoughts as they occur to you. And the more you look at your thoughts occurring to you, you notice that where did it even come from? This thought. You know, did it just come around because it was time for that same thought to come around again? Or, you know, we don't know. But what you do know is whether or not that thought feels helpful or whether it feels healthy or nourishing, you know, to you. And no one's to blame. We just have habits, addictions, patterns that we feel trapped in. But the door's open. We can step outside anytime. Oh, well, I can't hear you, Dad.
Sorry, no,
Oh, you're good.
I muted there because Molly, our dog, was having a crack at the
Oh,
neighbour.
yeah.
And I forgot to unmute, but
Yeah.
I like this idea of a present room. I think one of the things we're trying to do in the Wise Leaders community is to replace meetings with conversations.
Mm.
One of the challenges of meetings is that everyone's somewhere else except in the room.
Mm.
And this idea of being present reminds me of that two wonderful lines. Jim Rohn, of course, he said, "Wherever you are, be there." And Nigel Risner, who's a famous English author and presenter, he says, "When you're in the room, be in the room."
Yeah.
And the present room exercise sort of helped me to, I think it's something we should do every time we gather, is just have a time where we actually say we're present. And then we begin the conversation. I like that idea.
Yeah, because when you're present, you're able to come up with new ideas instead of repeating, you know, your same old thoughts and patterns. And that's why I added into the little entrance room, is to let go of your roles in life, because we kind of take on roles as though it's like a character we're playing. And there's all these ideas that are part of that costume, which may not actually be comfortable and may not actually feel like the truth to us. You know, but we think, oh, you know, for me, it was like, oh, I'm a mother. There's certain things about being a mother that I'm supposed to do, but it didn't feel authentic to me. Yeah. So by letting go of the role of mother, I've been able to be a mother in the way that feels truthful to me. Yeah. I can be available directly to that role instead of like whatever the construction story around that role is.
Well, believing your own mythology is very dangerous.
Yeah. I think too, it's just coming into this sense of presence and this sense of kindness for your stories. It means that it's forgiven. You know, any sad story that we've been running, any sad story that society's been running, you know, it was just a mistake. And it's something that we can move beyond.
But in essence, we are all just stories.
Yeah.
I like to think of it that, like for my daughter, I will be a pleasant memory one day. And that's it.
Which, by the way, Andrew, I meant to ask you, because your daughter had COVID in Indonesia, but she's recovered okay.
Yes, she's doing very well. We spoke last night. We chatted early today. They've had a massive death toll. She's lost numerous friends. Girlfriend died 2 days ago. She was pregnant, so that's all sort of adding on to the weight of it. But we might be looking at the long COVID response now, because she's not as good as she was. It's going to take some time, but we don't know. And I can't make promises. No one knows. So you sort of feel a bit lost as to, what can I say?
I think it's an opportunity, and I wish her well, and I feel for her in her grief. But I think the positive side of COVID to me is it's given us an opportunity to be more present in the world.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Despite the pain and the anguish and the sorrow, I think if we humans really grasp this, it's a 1 in 100 year opportunity.
Well, same thing. We shared cooking together, even though there's a time difference. I cooked fried rice. We were doing this via Skype. And, and she goes, oh, well, I'll cook as well. So we're both standing in our respective kitchens cooking. And then we both ate together. And it's a little thing, but it makes a difference.
It's been a phenomenon that's been happening a lot, though. I attended an event the other day where I think there were 17 countries involved, and we just came to the Zoom room and we just did what we were normally doing. Everyone was doing their own thing, but we were conscious of other humans being in the room with us, even though that we were in different countries. And then after sort of half an hour of that, we had a conversation about what the experience was like, and it was unbelievable.
So to me, this is a really wonderful picture of how we're connected. There appears to be space between us, but we're directly connected. And that's a true experience, actually. So, for example, a thought can come into your head of a loved one, and you might not notice that thought. But if you do notice that thought, often you'll find that there's a synchronicity there with that loved one entering your mind. So for me, it would often be with my mother as a child. I would think of her and I would think, about something she was thinking. And then I would talk to her and she would have been having some thought, of that subject. And that's connectedness. So the idea is that these bodies make us completely sealed off from each other. But actually we are connected.
I wonder whether Rupert Sheldrake is following all this up.
Yeah, I saw a thing that was like morphic resonance 40 years on. And I don't think we need to think of it as like a mystical kind of jelly. So I think the resonance field made it seem like it was an object. And that may be where it didn't feel quite right, because, space doesn't have to be an object. So, they found that our bodies are 99% space and 1% stuff. So if you look around the room, you can see that there's much more space around all the stuff than there is stuff. And so the space between stuff connects the stuff together, but it doesn't have to be some mystical object itself. It's just a connecting space.
I like this idea you said. I think you said out of our heads and into direct experience. I love that concept, that because right now we are having a connected direct experience of each other, even though we're all miles apart physically. There's a space between us, and yet we're right here.
Yeah, because you can feel that. I've actually, what I was going to say, it's no longer available. It's gone.
Yeah, he might have just dropped out perhaps, but maybe say it anyway because he can get
No, I mean, it actually left my head. Oh, no, it's returned. It's returned. So what I was going to say is that our head is just it's a supportive function. So like I often notice when I'm meditating, let's say I start to feel this energy of connection and presence, my brain will provide images, like whatever image seems to match that energy feeling that I'm having, you know? So I might see like a glowing light or a drop of water or, you know, whatever images are stored in my brain. So it can kind of just be a supportive translation of your experience rather than what's dominating your experience. So that's, I think, simply all that's happened is that we've come to let our brain function dominate our body experience. And so we just need to make an adjustment and have a holistic and connected experience.
I was thinking, Paul, in your field of the employee experience and the customer experience being paramount, I was wondering what this idea of direct experience brought up for you in this context.
Yeah, I was actually thinking of something completely different. I was thinking of a story I heard the other day of a family having a long and an intense Monopoly tournament over 4 corners of the world. and that connectedness where they're all in the moment. And as if they're in the same room, and this has been going on for weeks, apparently, this one game of that. But
I noticed on the news last night that there's the old people's Olympics, which is going on all around the world as well, and they're all connected via the internet or by video. And so you've got people swimming in Germany and America and England and Australia all at the same time, you know. Yeah. And they're on a virtual connected road race, you know. So they're actually doing the road race on bikes, you know, not moving anywhere, but they can see where each other's moving on these video things. It was quite unbelievable, you know. Everyone's celebrating successes all around the world, you know. It was fantastic.
Yeah. And in a workplace context, I was just thinking how frustratingly difficult it is to get people to be present in a meeting when they're all distracted by phones and other thoughts, and perhaps thinking of where they're going to be or what they're going to be doing after the meeting.
That's my first note today was to talk to my people about being present in the room or the moment when either with friends, family, work colleagues or customers. You know. Yeah,
because you notice that when you come into presence yourself, you're actually just more open to be connected to others. So it means that in your work context, whatever it is that you want to, because, you know, why do you have a meeting? Because you've got something that you want to change or you've got something that you want to share. So, but if everybody's intelligence and point of view is connected, then you'll come to some new place together, you know? So if we stop thinking about that we're at war with each other, you know, and when we're in our brains and we're constantly in a sort of fearful state of mind, we're in this like attack defense mode. And it means we want to defend our ideas and attack people that we don't agree with. But what if all of our different perspectives actually brought us to one beautiful unity point of view? But it took all of our points of view to reach that new perspective. You know, so if we can drop that need to defend our own ideas or the need to attack ideas we don't agree with, then we can come to an exciting new perspective together. And it means that like each conversation becomes this opportunity to build something together.
Comes back to that thought that there doesn't have to be a winner and a loser.
Yeah.
This of course is the essence of shared view. You've got your view, I've got mine, you've got your story, I've got my story, but our view or our stories is the most powerful. And often that requires a willingness to hear a point of view that we don't believe in. Or
And when you're able to see through your own story, it's a bit looser too. You don't have such an attachment to defending your story because you've already started to kind of learn how to maybe see through some of your stories, you know? So it's not, you don't feel so kind of stubborn about it.
Similar thing with rules. We've talked about rules in some of our previous conversations. You know, we've all got rules. And yet a lot of them are kind of a bit fanciful when you think about them.
And sometimes what are rules except things that won't make us feel safe? What if we are safe? Like, what if we're innately safe? You know? That's something.
You've got to look at the various governments and their response to handling COVID, and you look at it. The shared view is they all want the same thing. They all want to either manage or eliminate the virus. So they're only arguing about the method, not the destination.
Exactly. So if everyone focused on the strategy, amazing. And think of what we'd be doing in the world if we didn't waste our time fighting each other and having a war, which doesn't really make sense anyway. Imagine the things we build together. Yeah. But I think this is happening anyway. I really think that the people being born into the world, I feel like they just won't have as much patience or this sort of disconnected way of seeing the world.
I think there are.
It's happening already.
I think there are ways ahead. I know, Paul, we've talked about your boy Josh, who I think is just approaching 16.
Approaching 16, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we were online yesterday, Jessica and myself and Carol and Jessica's son Hamish, who's approaching 20.
Yep, he'll be 20 in September.
And bit scary when your grandson already knows a lot more than you've learned in your whole lifetime.
My son gets very frustrated with me because I'll kind of explain things to him that for most people might be a bit of an edgy topic. And he just is like, Mum, come on, I know that. That's obvious.
So Paul's son Josh has got his own YouTube channel. And as I understand it, Paul's making it some sort of an income.
Not quite.
Not quite, but he's got a following.
Plenty of followers. He's got a lot of followers.
But it's just I wonder what it is. I was just reflecting on that, and I sense when I was talking to Hamish yesterday, and I sense when we've talked about our children and grandchildren in past conversations, I just had a feeling that they're actually more present. They're more present in the world, or more present with each other than perhaps us older people tend to be.
Hamish still struggles with the old mythologies of the world. So I feel like perhaps the younger ones are so present that it's just actually frustrating. These old dinosaur kind of ideas.
They're present. They're present in a world. It's really interesting. We were talking about this the other day. They're present in a world where they can access any bit of information that pops into their head instantly. They can get the answer to any question instantly, and they create immediately the entertainment that they want to see. So it's almost like the traditional ways of television stations deciding what they're going to show us. Kids now watch exactly what they want when they want, for as long as they want to watch it. And if they don't like what's available, they make it themselves. That's literally, they got the tools in their hand to go, well, there's nothing interesting to watch, so let's find some kid in his bedroom who's making something more interesting than what's on TV.
I like the reframing of, like, because we could look at technology and say it's distracting and it's got all of these harmful things about it, but there's everything is two-sided. So it can look, it's connecting us right now.
The next level below that, I've got an 11-year-old who, if I say, oh, there's this great movie, you should watch it. What he'll do is go and almost look up the highlights of it, the 5-minute package that is like a summary of the movie, and then he'll be like, I don't need to watch it now. I've done
What's
that.
the trailer?
It's like, you know, what's next?
This conversation reminds me of a joke I got sent today, and I'm just going to read it out to you. So it's a father duck and a son duck, and the father saying, I'll tell you again, go and brush your teeth. Come on, you're making me sound like a broken record. And the kid says, a broken what, Dad? And he says, a broken record. Oh, they were the kind of things that they were there before CDs. He said, CDs, what are they? And he went, oh, God. You know, that thing, you know, the music on my phone. He said, oh, you mean YouTube, Dad? And he said, no. And the baby duck says, what's going on here, Dad? What are you up? And he said, oh, I'm kinda. And the baby duck then says, I think Dad's buffering. So he knows nothing about CDs, nothing about the music on your phone. What are you talking about, Dad? That's YouTube, you know. So it's when we were just talking about that, I'm thinking, and what you've just said there, Paul, you're exactly right. You can watch a trailer and say, oh, I reckon I got the gist of that movie in 5 minutes.
But there's something, you know, that makes me sad, which is this thought that, you know, I think back to when I was a teenager, when I was 16, and there was I was really into In Excess, right? So a band, you know, I was a massive fan of In Excess, still would be if he was alive today. But you know, when the new album was coming out, and there was all this anticipation, and then, you know, the album's $20, and you got to get $20, and you know, you might have to wait for a birthday, and then you got to get yourself down to the record store, and there's all this anticipation. Then you got to go and buy it, and then you got to somehow get yourself home so you can play it, and there's this whole value around that physical album, right? Now it's almost like things have become worthless because literally they can access any song in the world and listen to it. But what does it mean? You know, it's got no value because there's a million songs available to them. So where's the passion around that?
So what happens when we see that we're not even waiting to taste something as it goes in?
Yeah, exactly.
What arises is the desire to fully taste. You know, so I think that this, like, everything's speeding up, and I think that's just the way it's going, and it's the experience that's right. But, you know, there's always this counter thing that will happen. So it's really interesting, whatever that counter movement will be, because I know, like, my generation and younger friends of mine have counter responses to culture, and that kind of moves you in a more nourishing way of living. You know, like the millennials are like not so into having possessions and insurance plans and being, you know, being obsessed with building the empire.
Yes. No superannuation. Who cares?
Yeah.
It's all about living
experiences. Yes.
Yeah. So that's just, I find that interesting, like how you can kind of focus on the dark or light side of something, but it's actually just a counter move. Things just turn into counter opportunities. Like, you know, a force this way will create a force that way.
Yeah.
So you can just sort of look at it as dynamic.
It's so funny about your story, Paul. When Bon Jovi's Slippery When Wet came out, I rode 12 kilometres on my bike. I had the $20.
Yeah, I still got the record.
Yeah, so have I. Yep. And I had to go, and there was only one record. I was a couple of places in Ballarat, but down, and I had to line up for 2 hours, you know, to be one of the first to get Slippery When Wet on vinyl, you know.
Yeah.
It's whereas as you say, the experience now is while we're sitting here now, I can just Google it up and be watching it in the background, you know.
Yeah. But if you didn't have to wait for it and it didn't cost you anything to listen to it, it's kind of like, okay, that was great. Next song.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
I've been thinking a little bit about when you make something with your hands, the difference. Like, it takes so long because, you know, my 2 degrees are both working with my hands and making things. And it takes such a long time, but the satisfaction of this thing that you've engaged with your body you know, is really something. There's really something to that.
So welcome back, Andrew. And David and Kathy, we haven't yet heard from you in the conversation, so you might have a reflection for us. You might not. There's no compulsion, but just giving you the floor, David or Kathy.
Yeah, I quite often, I mean, I meditate quite often, so I have found that the more often I do it, and then it's very easy to be in the present, because you're not looking backwards and you're not looking forwards. You're actually dealing with whatever you've got to do right now, and you can pay more attention to that. Without looking for the outcome, because the outcome will happen anyway.
True.
But I find that it's easier to be able to listen to people and to try and see things from their how they're seeing it. So there'll be maybe a difference depending on their experiences in the past. And so I suppose it makes me more open to not have any expectations in particular, although I know where I want to be. I don't expect them to have the same viewpoint or the same way of getting there.
Yeah, I love that, Kathleen, the sense that we don't have to have the same perspective and that we don't need to.
No.
And that actually, if we understand that we're all connected, it makes sense that we'd all have a unique little piece of perspective, you know, to make a whole. Yeah. It's really peaceful not to have to defend your perspective too, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, just feels like.
Surely that's the magic stage, isn't it? If you can get to that where you're comfortable enough in your own perspective that you don't actually need to defend it.
Because then I think it's a matter of like identity and ownership. So
not saying I'm there yet, but it's a beautiful spot.
You know, I think it's a matter of if that idea has some of your identity invested in it, then we're more likely to be very attached to it. So, you know, because we have some messages in our brains that tell us that we're not good enough, or that we're worthless, or that we just need to be better. Any idea that we carry that kind of demonstrates somehow that we're good, you know, then we'll get attached to that. And that'll be the one that we want to be defensive about. So it's really good to kind of investigate anything that you're really passionately into, just gently investigate it and see what's behind it. And it's sometimes interesting to see what's behind that. You know, you might just reinforce a kind of an innate truth, or you might discover that you've got some identity invested in there and maybe it's not helping you or serving you.
I know when I've done that reflection, I think, Paul, I would say that I'm very comfortable with quite a few areas that I don't feel a need to defend my perspective. But I've also got areas where I do feel the need to defend my perspective. And when I look closer at those things where I do feel the need to defend them and look at the reason behind it, it's often that that perspective was kind of hard earned, or I had to fight to get to that way of seeing. And I don't want to let it go all that easy.
You also don't like injustice, and that might be a case where you'd go in and defend your position if you saw injustice.
So true. That's so interesting that you say that, because I have inherited that from
there
Dad.
You go. It's a good thing.
Yeah, I really noticed that this sort of jumping in for injustice. And I think that was like a climate in my childhood home. You know, that was such a strong passion for Dad, that's something that came into my identity as well. But I think it comes from a very beautiful motivation. but I think that it's also something to investigate. You know, in the moment when you get triggered because it happens to me, I get triggered sometimes to defend someone I see as not strong enough. But sometimes I can sit back and see whether that's necessary. Yeah, just to gently kind of probe it, see what was inside it, you know, when you get triggered.
I would say that most of my triggers have a line to injustice. Yeah, that's my examination of them. If I feel there's an injustice happening or there's an injustice that could be avoided, that tends to trigger, you know, perspectives that I want to defend or attack someone else's. But
so
I think,
if you go into that, there'll be fruit. There'll be so much fruit for you in there.
Yeah, that's what
really go into that.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I think that, you know, it's a bit like that Jungian idea that, you know, the goodness is in the darkness. The gold's in the shadow was Robert Johnson's way of explaining it.
Because the shadow is just a shadow.
Yeah.
We have this notion of it being bad and a judgment of bad and good, but it's just a shadow.
It's not either good nor bad.
Yeah.
And that's a bit of a revelation when it comes to us.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting, yeah, to look at why you are defending a particular perspective and to see where that leads to. As I say, in my case, it's often to do with some kind of feeling of injustice, but it's something to explore. I think valuable for all of us to do that.
That's good too.
Sadly, I'm going to have to exit, but this has been absolutely lovely.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks,
Thanks
Jessica.
for coming.
It's been wonderful.
Great.
Maybe we can do it again. Actually, Ian, it'd be good if we can do it again.
Part 2.
We'll put the plan on.
Part 2.
Part 2.
Yeah.
So I'll see you in part 2. Bye.
See ya.
So we're kind of on the way to coming in for a bit of a landing. Anyhow, it looks very dark there in Ballarat, Jamie.
Oh, you're muted. You're mute.
The most.
It's dark where Andrew is as well.
Yeah, it's not quite as that dark here, but just so David.
Yeah, look, I've really enjoyed today. I must admit, I'm just taking it all in. I'm actually just outside at the minute, so it's not that dark here, as you can see. Sky's
Nice.
Beautiful sunny sky here in Ballarat. It'd be a balmy, probably 3 or 4, I'd say.
That's Chris.
It's been an interesting conversation. I like the idea of there's no right or wrong in anything, really, is there? Like, depends which way you look at things. If you think it's wrong, you can almost convince yourself to make yourself think that it's right.
Because the thing is, like,
from today,
yeah, when you kind of condemn something to be wrong, you're rejecting it, and pushing it away from yourself and creating resistance. But when you're able to connect with it and bring it into you, then it transforms. You know, like its wrongness is often because it's rejected or pushed away or resisted. So it's that fascinating thing of bringing your attention and kindness and compassion to something will transform it. Anyway.
I like your background.
Isn't it pretty?
It's very, very serene, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It was lovely.
Sorry, I missed a lot of it because I had technical issues here.
Oh, shame, Andrew. Well, we've said maybe we'll have part 2.
It's taped. It's taped. You'll be able to watch it back.
Oh, yeah, true.
No, what fascinates me in this, and this is the argument, I mean, you know, chaplains in schools and stuff like that. To me, this sort of thing would be far greater value than someone giving simplistic Bible studies or any other sort of scripture, where people learn to focus to communicate, that it's quality communication. And it's sad that the government is so fixated on this. I mean, you know, even, you know, from my perspective as a chaplain, I just don't see the point in it.
I wonder what things that excite you. I can hear some passion in there for what you'd like to see happen in your work. I wonder what the vision can be there for how that can come to be for you.
Well, I deal with a lot of people that are on the fringe, and getting them to, or just, self-acceptance and, seeing themselves as worthy human beings. Because our system encourages a feeling of worthlessness. I have often stood around Victoria Market, this goes back a few years, and St. Vincent's would turn up with the meal bag, and the homeless would shuffle in a line and would have to be suitably humble to get a little horrifying cup of some sort of questionable soup. And it was, to me, bizarre.
Yeah, it's all a story, because we're all innately born worthy.
Yeah, and if they queried it, like, what's this? A couple of a soggy sandwich, and you want me to be grateful. You sort of wonder if we've lost the plot there somewhere.
It's an interesting thing. I've been fascinated by this as I've looked at my own self and the parts of me that I don't like about me. And then quickly I remember that I'm a one-off. I'm the only one, just like you.
Yeah.
And I think we forget. So how it's impossible to not look at another human being and be in awe, because we are viewing an original.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what we're doing is we're seeing people as stereotypes.
We do, I know, but
that annoys me. That goes against my inner grain, to have been present during these things, and to see homeless people that were very distressed, having to line up, and this is just one incident, and you have, high vis, guards everywhere, and you go, hang on, these people are not going to assault you. I worked on the streets by myself.
This is in line that something we discussed bringing up, Dad, which is the way in which life breaks your heart.
Yeah.
And the way to meet that. Like how to meet that pain.
Yeah, I think that's.
That could be something we talk about maybe in part 2, because you have to let life break your heart so that you can move beyond that and allow the pain to be transmuted by your attention.
Wasn't Joseph Campbell, the wounded healer?
Yeah, so.
Well, that's kind of his reflections on bliss. I made some comment in the Heart Leadership book about the film. I think it's called Following Joe, but it's a documentary about his life. And in that movie documentary, the president of the time of the Joseph Campbell Foundation says that bliss is doing what you can't not do. And I think there's something in that. And this, you had a wonderful phrase there, Jess. It was, you have to let your heart be broken, or something like that.
You have to let the world break your heart.
Because
in allowing that, you understand what you're pushing away and what you're building resistance against. So as long as we're pushing away the world, we can never allow everything to be connected, because we're rejecting.
Yeah. And the link between that and bliss is a profound one.
So yes, we want to live in bliss, but we have to let all of those kind of refugee thoughts and traumas be seen.
Yeah, and what are we afraid of? You sort of, when you get to know, like, the homeless community in the CBD, yeah, you might have the occasional one that's a problem because of psychotic episode or drug use or whatever. But the most of the time, you know, they want a cup of coffee and to have a quality conversation. For a few minutes, they meant something to someone else in the world.
Maybe just to be seen.
Yeah,
and
just
listened to.
you and
And met.
yeah.
Yeah.
They were recognized for being who they were without
Because-
being judged and without someone saying, "Have you found Jesus?" I mean, that really irks me.
Exactly, and it's those parts of ourselves that we resist that are the same as the same way that we reject like a homeless person because that feels too painful. It's the same way that we reject traumas inside ourselves.
Because really, in theory, I've done this myself. If the government made this possible and the various faith-based charities, which I've become rather cynical about, went along with this, we could vet the homeless, we could place them with families, with mature adults. There's all kinds of possibilities because they are not thieves and drug addicts on the whole. They're not outcasts. They just need a safe space. And I've done this myself. I've shared my house and they've been with my family for whatever time and then they move on. But they've had the opportunity to have a safe space.
Because it makes me think of, I'm not sure who said it. Dad is really good at quotes. Dad, do you know who said hurt people hurt?
Hurt people.
Yeah, I can't remember where that comes from, but I find myself turning to that a lot, is that you'll only hurt someone if you're hurt. You know, you'll lash out if you feel trapped. So it's our work to address these hurt parts in ourselves so that we don't attack.
I don't know the source, but I think the concept's very insightful. I think it's you know, the opposite is also true, that I'm not sure what the opposite of hurt is, but
just follow your thread, see where you go.
I think you get the idea, because if hurt people hurt, then loving people love.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's kind of easy to flip that coin.
Yeah.
Those of us that are parents, we remember that the agony of addressing what we think is a child's poor behavior, but still having them feel that they're loved.
Yeah.
That's a tricky bit. It's the same thing in leadership. It's addressing a behavior without hurting the person.
I think too that that takes a bit of investigation of your role. Because sometimes, you know, I found with being a mother, sometimes where I would want to bring my son into line, I was only responding to conditioned stories about what he should be. And sometimes what his natural self was actually perfectly lovable. You know, so sometimes it can be that in that moment, that person is lovable and maybe they're just expressing their pain, you know? Like to look beyond the need to have the behavior to be adjusted and see that person as just someone who's expressing wherever they're at.
Yeah. I mean, look, as long as the behavior doesn't harm others and they don't harm themselves, who cares?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I found providing a safe space where they could go into their own bedroom, lock the door, and know that no one would go in there. You know, it makes a difference. You know, I just can't see why this can't be done on a bigger scale. But
I think we start where we are. We start where we are, Andrew.
Yeah, look, I've tried things, and you know, I find that the organizations reject it because I don't know, I call it the industrialization of the charity. It's become a business.
I think that love, as Dad was saying, love. How did you put it, Dad?
I said loving people love.
Yeah, and that love is a connecting force. So that's how it becomes a massive mass scale change. is that each one of us turns on our innate value, our innate loving nature, and that radiates across the world. And we're connected.
Mm.
And we're all focused on love. And we create loving experience.
And let's get away from the fear. You know, I noticed that, especially with the government, you know, you ever got to be afraid of something. Why? You know, I don't search under my bed for Muslim terrorists. I've worked with the Muslim community. I don't care.
Yeah, fear was a big one for me, Andrew, to come through. Like I really suffered from feeling really traumatized over the group story of fear that we all get conditioned into. Yeah, and it took a real, Dad will tell you, it took me a real job to come through that fear. But it's tremendously empowering when you can see through that.
Well, I said to my daughter, I said, look, there's fear and there is danger. One is imagination, one is reality. Know the difference.
Yeah, that's great. Very helpful. That's like, do you know the snake and the rope story? It's an old Vedic story where you see a snake in the road and you jump off the side of the path. But then you look again and you see that it was just a stick.
Well,
sorry, it's rope.
Yeah, we are masters at frightening ourselves.
It comes back to where we were, doesn't it? It comes back to where we were a little while ago about perspectives. You know, you could, I don't know how many times out in the bush I've seen what I thought was a snake, but on closer examination, it isn't.
Yeah, so that's our mind.
The mind's playing tricks.
Confirmation bias.
Fear is the same. All fear is the mind playing tricks.
Yeah, and that's all it is.
I don't mean to put it lightly, but in reality, that's it. And the place to start, I think, all of the ancient texts and all of the ancient teaching follows this path that love is the opposite of fear.
Because we don't want to get into this thing of having to fight fear, because that's fear.
No, well, we'd be fighting our own shadow, literally.
Yeah, so that's the fun thing about it.
Successfully.
You don't there's not a war on fear.
No, so what have we got there, Jamie?
You got it there, have you? Awesome.
You're on mute there, Jamie, I think.
Yeah, it's back to front, unfortunately. I was trying to Google up who said it, and there's a number of people who said hurt people hurt, but
I think a lot of people paraphrase it, hey? Yeah. You got a good one there.
So it looks like Dan Pierce looks like the source there.
Yeah. People who love themselves don't hurt other people. The more we hate ourselves, the more we want others to suffer.
That's an interesting one. Is people who love themselves don't hurt other people. Isn't that interesting?
The more we hate ourselves, the more we want others to suffer.
Yeah. So the upshot is that we have to love. Doesn't mean we love fear as in let's create more fear, but you have to forgive it.
Yeah.
You know, and then you transmute it into love.
Yeah.
Because opposites just mean that they're connected. It doesn't mean that they're in a war against each other.
No.
It just means that they're actually connected. So when you see through fear, you will see that it's love.
Yeah.
It was just turning away from love.
Fascinating. I'm sensing a bit of a landing here, Jessica, wanting to give other folks an opportunity as we do come to the end of our time together. But I think part 2 will be scheduled soon.
Great. Thanks so much, everyone. It's been really wonderful to chat with you.
Thank you. That was very, very good. And thanks for all the other contributions as well. I'll leave you to it. Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Good.
Bye.
All right. So thank you, Jessica, for bringing yourself to spend time with us.
Yeah, thanks, Dad. Love you.
Love you too. And we'll look forward to part 2. Thank you all for joining us.
I look forward to watching the first 45 minutes and enjoying myself.
Great.
Very well. Terrific.